Wait a minute. Why am I standing and not sitting and playing a weird video game sharing a common theme with other video games that I also play on this channel for entertainment? Oh, am I reviewing something? What am I reviewing? It had better have a common theme. Oh, I see. I'm reviewing visual novels. More specifically, Steins Gate. I guess if that's what the world line has in store for me, let's get this rolling. Visual novels. Not quite manga and not quite anime. I really do love them so. They are able to be immersive and engaging while only having at times one static image on the screen. What would I do if there were only words for me to read? I think that visual novels, when done correctly, can be more interesting than anime. With visual novels, one is able to use their imagination to a degree to fill in the blanks between the still images on the screen, while also getting that dosage of anime they crave daily. With anime, everything is presented to you. While that's not necessarily a bad thing, sometimes a story can be best experienced at one's own pace, playing as the character in the story rather than observing from a third-person perspective. Which is my case with Steins Gate, the topic for today. Let's make things clear. I am not reviewing the anime for Steins Gate like, some other people. I'm reviewing the visual novel series that the anime was based on. There are some things that the anime adaptation does not touch on and doesn't show, such as the different endings you can get. Let's start with the basic outline of the plot. You play as Okabe Rintaro, a college student with a bit of Chinibiu syndrome. Yeah, that kind of Chinibiu syndrome. He calls himself Hyoyin Kyoma and parades around yelling about the lab and inventions and the mysterious organization. Through certain circumstances, he meets Makise Kurisu, a member of the neuroscience division at Victor Chandria University. Through even more circumstances, Kurisu ends up at Okabe's lab, along with their friends Mayuri Shina, the literal definition of, and I don't use this term often, warm cinnamon roll, and Daru. He's kind of sitting there. The first, maybe fifth of the game is used to establish relationships between the characters and set up the plot for when things start to go south. Okay, so that's a very, very loose plot description of Steins Gate. From here on out, I will be reviewing under the assumption that you have at least watched the anime for Steins Gate. So in short, there will be spoilers ahead. Why did I feel the need to cover Steins Gate on Goofing Off even though the anime has already been covered, you ask? Well, first of all, the anime does not animate the specific character routes, all of which are very well written. My favorites were Suzuha's and Ferris's, but to find out why, you'll have to play the visual novel. Secondly, the art. It wouldn't be a Drew Brown review segment without a talk about art. The Steins Gate visual novel has some breathtaking artwork. The characters themselves ooze with style, and the backgrounds make the characters pop. I'd honestly say that out of the entire series of games Steins Gate is in, titled the Science Adventure series, Steins Gate certainly has the best and most unique art style. Both the Chaos games, Chaos Head and Chaos Child, go for a more standard anime look. Robotics Notes is made in CG. Now don't worry, you can put the torches and pitchforks down, the CG looks good. I guess this would be a good time to point out that Steins Gate is the second game in the Science Adventure series, after Chaos Head and before Robotics Notes. There's many different spin-offs for all of these games, but for this review, we're just focusing on the Steins Gate games. So anyway, I think the Steins Gate anime, while not being bad by any stretch of the word, unlike, that one, I think the story is better experienced in its visual novel form. There's a ton of smaller details that the anime leaves out, things varying from stuff about the organization that is the central antagonist of the entire series, to just how Ferris won the Ferris Cup. I think that the silly, minute things and the fact that you play as Okabe and are able to see what he is thinking during a situation and how he deals with said situations is, in my opinion, much more interesting than watching the anime. Like I said, don't get me wrong, the anime adaptation is very good. I just think that watching it in place of the visual novel is overall the worst option. So many little plot developments, instances of foreshadowing, and bits of character development are absent from the anime that can only be experienced in visual novel form. So let's get on to the Steins Gate games that were made other than the visual novel. There's Steins Gate Darling of Loving Vows, which is a romantic comedy taking place in a completely different world line than the original game. I honestly haven't played it. It hasn't been translated to English yet, but if it ever does, I'd very much like to play it. Please, let me play it. Next is Steins Gate Variant Space Octet. This one is a non-canonical sequel to Steins Gate. This one is interesting because it has a lot of links to Chaos Head, Steins Gate's predecessor. There are ways to play this one in English, but I will not mention them here because, reasons. But I can mention that apparently someone got it to run on a graphing calculator, so I guess there's that. Next is Steins Gate, Linear Bounded Phenogram. This one is a group of side stories following the main characters in different world lines. That one is technically canon. Finally, after 6 years, Steins Gate 0 was released. This is a full-blown sequel to Steins Gate, and again follows Okabe as he copes with the consequences of what he did during the events of Steins Gate, the original visual novel. This game introduces a handful of new characters and really puts an interesting twist on the ending of the first Steins Gate. It also got an anime adaptation if you're interested in that, but you're not interested in that because this is not an anime review segment now, is it? Out of all of these games, the original Steins Gate and Zero were the only two to receive an anime adaptation. But I highly recommend checking out the games because they're all spectacular and add a lot to the characters featured in the series. Well, have I sold you on playing the visual novel for Steins Gate? If not, let me unleash my final weapon on you. El Sai Kangaroo. You ever heard of Steins Gate Elite? So Steins Gate Elite is my final weapon because it basically is the anime in visual novel form. It uses the fully voiced and animated scenes and makes it all into a nice visual novel package. I know it sounds weird, but it works very nicely actually. It even solves the problem the anime has where it doesn't have the routes of specific people because Studio White Fox went ahead and fully animated the routes. There really isn't anything like it. So if you want a good middle ground to introduce yourself into visual novels, you can't get much better than Steins Gate Elite. Plus you get this.
唐揚げ食べようっと。ジューシー唐揚げナンバーワン。
Anyway, like I said before, Steins Gate is a very good anime. But the anime just misses some of the things that the visual novel does that makes Steins Gate one of the best stories I've experienced in recent years. Steins Gate was developed by 5PB and Nitro Plus as a part of the Science Adventure series. If you're interested, definitely pick up Steins Gate on PC, PS4, PS Vita, and a lot of other things if you know Japanese. You can get Steins Gate Elite on PS4, Nintendo Switch, and PC, and of course the other places if you can read Japanese. Well, I guess that about wraps it up for the first episode of Drew's Visual Novelin. If you have a visual novel that you want me to look at, tweet me at ZTVGoofingOff with that hashtag Visual Novelin. Until next time, I'm Lab Mem Drew Brown, and this has been my look at Steins Gate, the visual novel.